We're
live?
live.
It's
Here we are.
Oh, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic Podcast. I have my good friends Raynetta and Connor today, and every time they come on the show, they drop amazing knowledge. And welcome to everybody on Raynetta's channels. We're streaming there too, and welcome to everybody on Rumble and Facebook and all that stuff. You know, it's going to be a really interesting show. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. And my guests are really highly skilled in esoteric stuff. I'm just going to let them take over, and they're going to share their knowledge. So, Raynetta, Connor, thanks so much for coming on. How are you guys?
Hey, what's up? Thank you for having me back.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time, but I can't wait to get started.
Yeah. So where are we starting tonight? What are we starting with?
So where we're starting tonight is an ancient, the ancient grid that was on this planet, right? And how a hijacking race came here, destroyed that grid, destroy the true grid, and then set up the present grid. And that present grid, by using some of the ancient symbols and today's Earth grid, basically set up the structure for the New World Order. And how we can quite possibly speed up the awakening by restoring the grid. That's where we are. And it has to do with the ancient Lingum Yoni, the ancient Hindu Dravidian Lingam Yoni, which I think is a machine. It's also the penis of Shiva and the vagina of Parvati or Shakti, or we know them as Osa and Oset, and to the Greeks, Osiris and Isis. So we're not, I don't believe we're going through the biblical age. I believe what we're going through is the Osirian or Osirian age. We're playing out Osiris's story. And I wanted to show that today.
That's interesting. So let me ask you this. Who is this ancient hijacking race? Do we know more about them, or and what do you think their intentions were?
Well, we know them today as the brother of Osiris, right? Who is Seth. Everyone knows Seth, right? Yeah. So Seth, the brother of Osiris, and they're all the same. They're even here in my area. They're called Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl. They're even right here in this area, right?
So was it Anunnaki, Raynetta? Would it go back to the Anunnaki, do you think?
Well, I don't think Osiris, I'm not sure if Osiris was an Anunnaki, but they were humans. And Anunnaki means they fell from the sky. So Anunnaki could be anything. It could be the bird people. It could be the Dracos. It could be the blue avian. It could be the feline.
Can I add
go ahead.
one more thing?
Yeah.
I'd like to add one more thing. Osiris is also named in the Egyptians as Azuar. So that's his Egyptian name.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that Quetzalcoatl and Osiris are Anunnaki. I have to check back on that. But I'll let you know.
I say that is the only reason why I say that is because people say the gods mimicked each other over time. Like they transferred pantheons from Sumerian to Egyptian to Mesoamerican. You know, that they were these same people that just kind of, they colonized the whole earth, and they. And that's why I was referring to them as Anunnaki, but they could have been anything. They could have been just some human race that, just were more powerful than us or something,
Well, here's what we can say. Remember, whenever you're dealing with ancient kings, always remember they're not 100% human. By virtue of them being a king, it's believed that they descended from direct descendant from the gods. And the gods usually had either some sort of extra human abilities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that in and of itself, you could say, yes, they were Anunnaki, but in the classic sense of an Anunnaki, they're usually classified as the bird people. So in the classic sense, no. But in the sense of he who from heaven came, yeah. Nimrod is a descendant of what you would call the Anunnaki. And Nimrod, the scepter of royalty was first given to Nimrod, right? So Nimrod is like the oldest royal bloodline. So yeah, so you could say he descended from the Anunnaki, but pure Anunnaki, No, at some point in time when they're on the earth, when they're on the earth in this density, they lose a lot of their power. And
Okay.
unfortunately, that's why they tend to, do certain things that we don't like, with children and yada yada yada, blah 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 blah, because of the loss of tremendous amount of power. Right?
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
But what's really interesting about Oset, Osiris, Isis, Quetzalcoatl, Tezcatlipoca, Quetzalcoatl, Shiva, Shakti, yada yada yada. What's interesting about all of them is that most people think that where the Bible is being played out, the book of Revelations, right? And to a certain degree, that is a script that they created and they're executing. To me, it's not prophecy. When I was a Christian, I was like, oh my God, it's prophecy. But now that I have understanding, I realize, oh no, it's a script. And they tell you it's called scriptures. Script. So who plays out a script? Actors, right? So they tell you that the Bible is scripted. It's a scripted book, But anyway, so what's interesting is that there's another level, a much older story that's being played out right before our eyes, right? And that older story is the battle between, they just literally, oh my God, they just, my brain. That's the battle between Seth and his brother Osiris. Okay, here's why we know for a fact that it's a battle between Seth and Osiris, because the hybrids at the top, okay, not the pure bloods, the hybrids at the top are sethites. They are sethites and they are apophytes. Okay, how do we know that we're dealing with apophytes? Apophytes have for thousands of years, the followers of Apophis have tried to block out the sun. Did everyone catch that?
Yeah.
What are they doing now? What are they doing today?
They're blocking out the sun?
They're trying to block out the sun. Yeah, that's nothing new. That's the followers of Apophis, right? And Apophis' arch nemesis was Ra. Okay, and Ra would always defeat Apophis, right? Now, but there was a second battle most people don't realize that's going on, and that's the battle for the throneship, the kingship, the rightful heir, the rightful ruler of the earth, and how the earth should be run. And it was said that Osiris, Osar, was a righteous ruler, meaning you didn't overtax the people, you didn't enslave the people, the land was fertile. Fertility is very important, meaning women got pregnant and crops were produced and rain fell, right? Now, what happened in the story of Osiris? In the story of Osiris, he had a jealous brother. His jealous brother cut him down, right? And he ended up dying, right? He ended up dying without a child, right? Why is that important? Well, his brother, the Seth, or, you ready for this? Sutek. Another way of calling Seth is Sutek. His brother was responsible. Why is that important to today? Because when you really study the occult, you learn that these Templars, the Masons, all of them worship Seth. They're all Seth worshippers. Yeah. Why would they worship something that doesn't exist? And in particular, Seth is worshipped at the highest ranking military orders.
Wow.
The Egyptians had their own versions of the Ark of the Covenant. It was discovered in King Tut's tomb, and they put Anubis as part of their, so they can communicate with Anubis and the higher power. But what's also interesting is that when King Philip, before the execution of the Knights Templar, he was accusing the Knights Templar of heresy. So if you look at the Ark of the Covenant, it has the power to communicate with the divine. And so when talking to the divine, the Knights Templar wrote down encounters with so-called God, and one of their encounters had red looking eyes, and it was communicating through the Knights Templar what to do. And Jacques Molay actually used the Ark of the Covenant to curse the king and the Pope. And in a matter after his death, Pope dies from a rare disease. King Philip dies, and his eldest surviving grandson dies, ending the Capetian dynasty exactly as Jacques de Molay had cursed.
That's a powerful piece of information, because we know that the oldest arcs are not in fact Hebrew, and most of the archaeologists actually tell you, if they really want to tell you the truth, they said, listen, everything they tell you about these Hebrews are a lie. The real Hebrews are Egyptians. That's what they tell you, but they're forbidden to tell the true story of the Hebrews, so they just let the Nancy story play out. But anyway, so
Moses was the Egyptian, right? Or no,
yes,
not Moses. Moses was Egyptian,
yes,
right?
Moses was Pharaoh Akhenaten's brother. So what happened was during Akhenaten's reign, when he died, Tutmosis was supposed to take over. But what happened is that King Tut, his son, took over. And so Tutmosis at that time disappears from history. And if you look at his name, Tutmosis means son of the god Thoth. And if you take away the Tut element of his name, Mos means the son of. Now, Moses is very similar to Mose. So during what we call the so-called Exodus from Egypt, it was the followers of Akhenaten who portrayed one god with no image, and the brother of Akhenaten gave it to the Israelites, and therefore took the 40 days and 40 years into the desert. So the Exodus did not occur during Ramses II's reign. It occurred during the death of Akhenaten, because Akhenaten and Moses introduced one monotheistic faith. Absolutely. So that's what. And if you look at Zoroastrianism and Atonism is the earliest. So Atonism is the precursor of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. If you look at this faith really carefully, it's a similarity of the Jewish and Aten religion. So they have one God with no image. And therefore, Akhenaten introduced king worship through Aten. So he was the first amongst the pharaohs to introduce this. During paganism, they described as the pharaoh one of the gods, but not God incarnate. Akhenaten changes this. Through Akhenaten, he is the living God, and therefore a direct representation of the god Aten. He totally changes this. So he combines all the gods of the Egyptian pantheon into one, the sun god Aten. And therefore, that will be the only divinity they all worshipped, until when King Tut comes into play. He destroys Atenism, eliminates Akhenaten Nefertiti from the Egyptian record, even almost to history, and they took his mummy, destroyed his tomb. It was a cover-up. They didn't want anyone knowing Akhenaten ever ruled Egypt, because he introduced a heretical religion. But, and according to lore, he was outside the palace, and then he saw a being come down from the sky, and he said, I am Aten. I am the only God. I am your father. I will guide you and give you wisdom across the ages. That's what he is describing.
Well done, Connor. And we really appreciate that, so that people get the religious and spiritual background behind this topic, right? And I hope that Connor would give us also a lot of information regarding the background about these particular characters. So today we're going into Seth and we're going into Osiris, okay? So Seth and Osiris is sometimes called, well, his original name, his Kemetic name is Ausa. So interchangeable Ausa and Osiris, okay? So in the story, so we already know the story of Osiris and his brother. His brother is jealous. Now, what's interesting about Seth is that Seth is a warlord. Mm-hmm. Seth is a god of infertility. Seth loves homosexual relationships. Okay. He is violent. He's somewhat of a trickster, a deceiver. Okay. And he's the god of disease. So in Revelation, you would call Seth, and Seth is portrayed as a donkey. So in Revelation, you would call Seth the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And I know a donkey and a horse is not the same animal, but they come from the same line, right?
Yeah, they're not bipedal. They're their own certain,
quadrupedal, right?
Yeah.
So so we can safely say that the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse came from an older story, which is Seth, which is the embodiment of Seth, and all of the plagues being released in Revelation is Seth's army. They call him Abaddon and Apollyon in Greek, the Greek and the Hebrew, Abaddon and Apollyon, right? What's interesting, the most famous thing everyone knows about Osiris, and this is where it gets interesting for us today, because I have to ask the question, is all of this happening because Osiris is rising? Is Ra coming back to fight Apophis and the Apophites? How do you recognize a worship of Apophis? They hate the sun. Who is the number one person on planet Earth who hates the sun today and is doing everything in their power to try to block it out? The same person that likes giving us these. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Old Billy Boy. Right? Right? You guys got it? Billy Boy?
The government. Yeah, shadow government. Yeah.
No, Billy Boy, Bill Gates.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's always like blocking out the sun. So he's an apophite, right? But the real power that we're dealing with are the sethites. The sethites love war. Has this planet known peace? The sethites bring disease, always releasing disease, right? What are we seeing? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if we're forgetting today is that Set has his own religion, the Temple of Set. So you have all the what we call the Illuminati. They worship Set and Apophis. So if you look at this from a perspective today, is that the Temple of Set is part of the New World Order. And if you look at this from a modern day perspective, Set is planned from CERN to be resurrected. CERN wants to resurrect Set, Apophis, Nimrod, that sort of thing, to bring him back and unleash war. Why do you think there's war right now? They profit on war. And so they use prisoners to commit sacrifice. That's what they're doing. Set loves this war. The war is his sacrifice, his blessing. So when a person kills somebody in war, it's a sacrifice. It's a blood sacrifice to Set. And so Set is also the grandson or great-grandson of Ra, if you look at it as particularly. Set is also the protector of Ra. He's the one who also fights Set and defends Ra from Apophis. And so Osiris and Set were the sons of the earth god Geba and the sky goddess Nut. So Osiris is portrayed as green sin as a symbol of his fertility. So he was considered to be a wise and beloved ruler who married his sister Isis. And then Set comes into play. Set dismembers Osiris into 14 pieces. And so his sister wife Isis goes, finds the bodies, and you know where his head was buried? Abydos. And you have a under by the temple of Seti, you find an enclosure called the Osirian. We think this is at least 15,000 years old, and it's said to have the head or tower of Osiris, also known as a jet pillar. And if you look at this, like for Osiris, so she puts together his body parts, and then she is pregnant with Horus. So if you look at this, Horus does battle with his uncle and eventually takes back the throne. And today, the Egyptian pharaohs, they were direct descendants of Horus, and they believe that Horus was the reincarnation of the next pharaoh. So this is a spiritual lineage, and this is a physical lineage. So the pharaohs always saw themselves as a descendant of Horus and a protector of Egypt from Set. And if you look at this Illuminati lore today, that's his worship center. And the Church of Satan is another one of them. The Temple of Apophis is one of them. It's all together. They all worship the same God, Set and Apophis. And they also worship Leviathan. Why do you think Leviathan, or aka Apophis, Leviathan is Apophis? And if you look at this in Egyptian mythology, Egyptian lore, you will find that Set has come back for revenge, and he therefore unleashing war today to take control. And he's looking for a particular bloodline, which I'll get into later. Go ahead, Rianetta.
Now watch this. Here's what's really interesting, right? So in the story, Isis and her sister finds all his body parts except one. Now that's what led me on this journey, that missing body part. I said, that's strange. I said, that missing body part, I've been seeing that body part at certain major sites around the planet that could only be seen aerially. And I wonder, this is my theory, I might be wrong, but everything points to Mexico. And I'll show you why. So let me present. Let's get started. So the first place that I saw, and let me know if you can see the screen.
You didn't pop up. No, it did. I'm putting it up now. Here we go. 1 second.
Okay, great. Can everyone see the screen?
Is this reproductive part? Is that what we're getting into?
Yeah, now we're getting into the Lingam Recturm ritual, the grid, right?
Can I be honest with you? When you told me to post that title, I was like, what? I was like, I don't know about this. Like, I don't know what people are going to think. And then so many people made comments that were like, what kind of title? I was like, okay. But I was like, I guarantee you it's going to be good. So I knew it was going to be good. So I don't know why I questioned you.
Just
type 1 if you're understanding in the comments. Type 1 if you're listening.
Just bear with me. Give me like 10 minutes. I'm going to go fast. But this is the ancient symbol that held the grid together. When we had a super civilization on planet Earth. And by super civilization, and I know racists are not going to believe this, and they're not going to like this, and they're not going to want to hear this. But the fact of the matter is, there was a point in time when all the seeds that were put here, the seeds, black, white, Asian, red man, whatever have you, they were titans. Notice I didn't say giants. They were titans, over 30 feet tall. Okay. The planet was one, the civilization was one, and we were mighty. And the planet was not a warlike planet. Okay. It intuitively was given to me that what held the grid, the earth grid together, was an ancient Hindu symbol called the Lingum Yoni. And this is it. This is the Lingam, and the Lingam today is represented by an egg. And then the Yoni, everyone knows the Yoni is the female vagina, and that this is the portal. Pay very close attention to the Yoni. Pay close attention to the shape. Pay close attention to the shape, because we're going to see that shape again, right? So this symbol is the male-female energy, the negative and the positive together like an electrical cord coming together, and was embedded and held the grid together. This was the ancient machine that held the grid together. When the grid fell, there's something else that held it together. We'll get into that, but because we got a lot to cover, right? So let's get started. So the story, why is the story of Osiris important? Because Osiris, remember when we went back and we looked at that mountain, right? The mountain that I'm going to be taking people on an excursion on. Osiris and Isis were the parent race of humans. Osiris and Isis, Isis's DNA, it is not Eve's DNA that's the oldest. It is Isis's DNA. They call it Gen Isis, Gene Isis, or Genesis. They told you in the name Eve didn't come first. They call it Genesis, Genesis. And then they presented you Eve. No, the oldest female bloodline is in fact Isis. But what was missing? What was missing was Osiris's penis. I started to find, and I'm going to show you, let's outline. This is Mount Kailash. Why is there a giant penis carved into the mountain?
I just noticed that now.
Of Mount Kailash. Why? Why is there a giant penis carved into the mountain? An erect penis carved into the mountain of Mount Kailash, right next to a giant vagina. And
Wow.
the head of Mount Kailash looks like the head of a pharaoh. The entire mountain of Mount Kailash looks like a pharaoh. There's his beard. Why? Why? The Lingum Yoni grid. It's more than just reproduction. It's more than just fertility. Remember, Osiris and Isis represented fertility, but it was more than that. It represented the grid being held together, male and female, different but equal, holding down the Earth's frequency.
Also, royal bloodline people.
Go ahead, Connor. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Connor. Yeah.
Go ahead.
You say so people can hear you.
Also, a royal bloodline. Not just a grid for frequency, but also a royal bloodline, which I'll get into later.
Okay, cool. You guys see it? Okay, that's not the only place. Now look at this. Let's go. Now this is in China. This is in Ngari Prefecture in China.
It's
where
pronounced China.
China. Okay. So Ngari Prefecture, and it's so funny because I'm like, Ngari, these are African words. Burang, that's African. Anyway, whatever. Those are Bantu words, but look at this. Remember, Osiris's penis is what was missing. So the key to the New World Order, what they fear most is Osiris rising. Okay, now watch this. I'm going to show you that the ancients, we're going to South Africa. We're leaving China and we're going to Table Mountain, South Africa. Now look at this. I don't know why this thing is doing this all of a sudden. Okay. This is Table Mountain on the southern reaches of Africa. Look at this. Do you see it? Why
Yes.
is there a giant penis carved into the mountain?
Yes, type 1 if you're following along.
Now, granted, this is millions of years old, so there's a lot of erosion. What? And in the Zulu folklore, if you listen to Credo Mutwa had the necklace of mysteries where it shows you the Chitahuri penis that had to be recreated. Why is there a giant mountain in South Africa with a giant penis? But that's not all. Look at this.
Wait, why do you think Credo thought that about the Chitahuri? Let's explain who the Chitahuri are. Credo thought the Chitahuri were the reptilians, right? So,
Yes.
he was saying that the reptilian penis had to be created for whatever reason. For people who don't know who Credo Moot was, because there might be some people who might not know who he is or about his connection to the reptilians, you know?
Right. So Credo Mutwa was Sangoma, which is the gatekeeper, the spiritual gatekeeper for all of Southern Africa. So I can't just say the Zulu people, but literally
It was,
all of
yeah, it was
Southern
what
Africa.
I was going to say. It wasn't just the Zulu, right? It was pretty
Right.
big.
And in particular, the Zulu folklore spoke about this head Chitahuri who had his penis cut off in a fight. Okay, and they had to reconstruct the penis, and Credo Mutwa had it on the necklace of mysteries. And David Icke said, hey, that sounds like the story of Osiris. He said, yes, it sounds like the story of Osiris, right? Even though the story of Osiris, it wasn't really a fight where he got his penis cut off, but these were two Chitahuris fighting, and he got his penis cut off, right? So that's the story. But what's interesting about this mountain is this. Hold on, let's just do this here 1 second here. Now, this is South Africa. Okay, we're still at South Africa. Let me flip this way. If we follow this penis, watch this. Watch this. I'm going to show you how old this prophecy is. If we follow the direction of the penis in South Africa, okay, we land, watch this. It takes us straight to Rio de Janeiro. But look at this. What does it take us to? It takes us to an erect penis of a baby. The Brazilians called this mountain Corcovado, or Sugarloaf Mountain. But from an aerial view, it looks like a baby that was born. Look at this. And when you tilt it to the side, it points to the erect penis of a baby. Why? Let me backtrack. When Isis and Osiris, when she resurrected Osiris with her power, Osiris promised Isis what? A baby.
Yeah.
Horus.
Horus. Who do you think this is in Brazil?
Horus.
Horus. The prophecy of Horus. It's carved into the mountain. So Osiris is on the South African side, and Horus was birthed on the American side. Okay? It's right there, people. It's right there. You can see it with your own two eyes. You can see that this looks, and I'm not being vulgar, this is an erect penis. Look, an erect shaft, okay, of a smaller entity. It's pointing to the birth of Horus. But why is that important? Why is that important? Watch this. When we get to Texas, now we're getting into, and I'm almost done, we're getting into, okay, that's Big Bend National. We need Big Bend State. Here we go. Okay. So this is Big Bend State Park. I'm not going to go into everything about Big Bend State Park, but look at what's interesting about Big Bend State Park. And this is where it gets really important to understand the mysteries. Big Bend. Big Bend. Big Bend. Okay? Now, here is why it's getting important. Now, before Texas became part of the United States, are you guys seeing it?
Yeah.
Okay. So before Texas became part of the United States, right? Texas was considered Aztec territory. All of this was Aztec territory, right? All of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. Now, here's what's interesting. What's next to Big Bend? We see this machine. Now, what is this? Oh, this is just a crater. Really? Are you sure? Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Remember this symbol? Does everyone remember this?
Yeah.
Type 1.
Okay. Now, remember this part of the yoni, the circle, and then this part coming down? Why does the ancient yoni match perfectly this so-called crater in Texas?
That's amazing.
It gets even more amazing.
I wonder what's it all mean though? I mean, like, what's this leading to? I mean,
do you see it?
Yeah, for sure.
Right? But not only that, look at this. Now that same symbol is giving birth to a face. Do you see the face? The eyes, the nose, the mouth. Do you see the face? Or do you need me to outline the face for you? Yes, there's a
No, I see
man
it.
coming. There's a man with a beard coming out. I want to be able to give Connor time to speak. Okay, why is it not like let me just do this face here. I'm gonna have to pull it up from here. Hold on. Let me do it this way. Da, 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 da. Let's mark him up. You guys can see him, right? Okay, good. I'm gonna mark him up in yellow. One eye, two eye. He kind of has an afro. He's wearing a crown. Don't even ask me to draw the crown because I can't draw. Do you see him?
Mm-hmm.
His thin nose. You see his mustache? And he looks like he could be wearing some kind of crown on his head. And he is being birthed out of this massive crater. Do you see him?
Yeah.
Also known as a uterus.
Bingo. You got it, Connor. You got it. Okay, so remember thinks it's pareidolia. Okay. But why does pareidolia, let's get to this. Why, if you follow this crater heading south, remember, we're following the Lingam Yoni. Lingam Yoni. Okay? This is the lingam here. We're searching for Osiris's lingam and Isis's yoni, because where the two are conjoined is where we find the key to the ancient grid. When we follow this crater, if it's pareidolia, why does it take us? I'm going to spin it upside down, because it's better if I spin it upside down. Okay. And then Connor, you're going to take it from there. If we follow, hold on. I want you to see this. We're following it all the way down. We land at the pyramid of the sun. Look at this. The yellow is the pyramid of the sun. And if we follow this map all the way from Texas, Big Ben, we land at the pyramid of the sun. Teotihuacan. Yes, Mexico, you got it. Now watch this. If we follow the pyramid of the sun, if we follow the pyramid of the sun heading west, we keep going west because it tells you here in the building, go west. Go west. Okay, in the design, the natural design heads west. So we're going to follow it west. The yellow is the pyramid of the sun, and we're going west. We're going west. We're going to keep going west. We're going to keep going west. Sorry about this yellow line. I should have touched that over there, not the other one. Okay. We're going to keep going west. Watch this. We're going to keep heading west. We get to, watch this. It takes us off the coast. Now, what's off the coast that the ancient Mexicans, the ancient Aztecs knew? If we're following how the pyramid of the sun is built. Hold on, what's this? Let's turn it around. Why is there a landmass off the coast of Mexico that looks like a skirt? I'm not the only one seeing this. Let me remove everything so everyone can see, so they can see this is not pareidolia. This is a landmass. It looks like a skirt. It looks like a waistband. It looks like a shirt, but wait, hold on. This looks like a donkey.
It's called set space. I call it set space.
Now, what ancient, and this is off, buried under the sea. If you follow the pyramid of the sun and you keep heading west, you come upon this megalithic structure off the coast of Mexico under the sea that looks like the donkey. Connor, can you tell us what ancient Egyptian god is represented by a donkey? Go for it.
Set. Set is the representation of a donkey. Set is the only god in Egyptian folklore that depicts Set as a donkey. It's the only Egyptian god. And if you look up the coast of Mexico here, you see a large structure that looks like Set. Now, if you look at this in perspective here, this is Set's base. This is where he is. And if you look at it's Set. Set is another name for Seth, but I call him Set. So Set, the god of infertility, plague, storms, chaos, storm, and list goes on. But if you look at something here, Set is the only one with a donkey head. He's the only god with a donkey head. And so if you look, and it's pointing right towards Teotihuacan. And by the way, the Aztecs never, ever, ever built Teotihuacan. It existed far, far earlier by a different culture. I call it the Teotihuacanans. That's what I like to call it. And also, Leonetta, can you do the first image, please, on Set? Can you go back
This
to
one?
the first? Yeah. Don't you notice he's holding two staffs? What god does he remind you of in Inca mythology? Viracocha. Viracocha. And he's holding two staffs. Atacama Giant holds two staffs. Interesting. So why would Set be the Incan god of Viracocha? Interesting. So Inca culture started when Viracocha told the Emperor Pachacutec that you will win many battles, and I am your father. You will win many battles. Oh, it's the same battle here. The same battle. Set is the god of war. Huh. And he's holding two staffs. Isn't that something? Now, if you look at Pumapunku too, this had like Sumerian glyphs. This is like, if you ask the local people today, they said, we didn't build this. The gods built it. And if you look at another structure, same way at Tiwanaku, you have a pitch in a Viracocha approached by birdmen. What are the birdmen? Anunnaki. I am not saying that Set is an Anunnaki, but Viracocha is holding two staffs. Interesting. Now, let's look up what does the two staffs represent here. I'll look it up on my computer. Okay. He's also known as the staff. Viracocha is also known as the staff god, and he's in the Gate of the Sun in Tiwanaku. And also, what's interesting, it also poses in Byzantine art. Huh. Is the Byzantines connected here too? Let's look it up. Okay. It's portraying the deity in apotheosis, or deification. So he's holding two staffs in apotheosis. Freemasons have this ritual today. So if a person wants to achieve apotheosis, they have a special dagger of where Abraham tried to sacrifice Isaac. And it's actually toned. It was manufactured in Egypt from a meteor. And this meteor, it said, has the handprint of God itself. And there's a special frequency too to it, if you look at it from perspective here. So if you want to achieve apotheosis for a Freemason, you have to go through a complex ritual of how Seth does it using the two staff. The two staff represent apotheosis, and also a symbol of power. Symbol of power.
Now, why would you have a land structure sunken under the Pacific? It's clearly sunken. That shape, the head looks like a donkey. It's wearing some sort of chest plate. It has a waistband and a long skirt dressed exactly like Seth, dressed exactly as Seth is depicted, okay, off the coast of Mexico. Now watch this. Connor, is the Temple of Seth located on the East Coast or the West Coast? The actual Temple of Seth.
East Coast.
East Coast?
Well, I gotta get my geography.
Okay. So the creator of the temple, okay, the founder of the Temple of Seth is Aquino. Aquino was located in north of Mexico. Cali.
Yeah. California.
California. Now watch this. Remember, Seth's order. That's it. You got it, Mexico Unexplained. San Francisco. Now watch this. The Temple of Seth, the actual Temple of Seth today in modern times, is right north of where Seth's base is. This is Seth's base, and this is California. You think that's a coincidence? Sorry. The reason why you could be having problems is because I have it tilted upside down. Look at this. So this is Seth's base here, off the coast. It covers practically all of Mexico. All of Mexico's Pacific coast is Seth. And north of that is California. Where the real Temple of Seth is. You think it's a coincidence? Connor, do you think it's a coincidence?
No, I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't think so. Because the ancients never believed in coincidences. It's when something is sacred, it's sacred. And they built temples from older temples on top of them, because I don't think it's a coincidence at all. If ancient people built structures on top of far older structures, then it wouldn't be a coincidence. If it's just one temple on a new temple on another site, that wouldn't be coincidence and wouldn't be sacred. But if you have multiple temples buried underneath the structure that we see today, then it will be like sacred. It cannot be a coincidence if it's like exactly depicted here. To the ancients, it's sacred. You can't rule that out.
You know, it's so funny you say that, Conan. I was driving in the taxi, right, with a taxi cab driver, and we were having a fascinating conversation. He said, do you understand that the Aztecs went all the way up into Utah and Colorado? I said, they did? He said, yes. He said, the Aztecs didn't stop at Mexico. He said they were all the way up to the border of what is known today as
I need
Canada.
to tell this. I need to
Yeah.
tell this.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
So Aztecs came from a territory in Aztlan. That's
That's right.
Utah. So there are 7 tribes of which each god was created. So according to Aztec legend, they Mother Goddess threw a giant flip knife to the earth, and therefore 1,600 gods were born out of this, and they each created 7 tribes.
Mhm.
They each created 7 tribes. So
Uh-huh.
the Aztecs didn't came from They didn't originate in Mexico. They
Mhm.
came from the United States. They came from Aztlan. And if you look at the culture, they came directly to South America and they settled in Tenochtitlan. That's Mexico City. That's their capital. Now,
Tenochtitlan, yep.
now Teotihuacan was not built by the Aztecs. It was built by a far older culture called the Teotihuacans.
Hmm.
Canons.
Hmm.
So this was the site that their god, the Mayan god Kukulkan, is said to have built, but the Aztecs populated it and called and made it as their own.
Hmm.
The ancient culture that built Teotihuacan had no writing system, but we found little things about the Mayans and Aztecs. They both practiced blood sacrifice.
Now
They
here,
co-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
so they copied the Mayan form of blood sacrifice into the Aztecs. Now the Mayans lived in the Yucatan, while the Aztecs lived up north of the Yucatan. Go ahead, Rianetta. And they all form a pyramid shape. So if you look from Big Ben here all the way to Teotihuacan, if you look towards the base, it looks like if you look at it perspective here, the pyramid is a symbol of the Illuminati, the New World Order. If you look at this, it also means the oldest symbol of the woman, connecting it to the pyramid. That is the symbol of a womb, the sacred feminine. So the original symbol, so the oldest symbol for man is this, and it's still on the used by the military today. The number of penises you have, boys will be boys. So the female symbol is this. This is called a chalice. And they're telling you that there's a royal bloodline. And if you look at the pyramid, it's telling you of what Temple of Set worships. And since it's off the coast of it's right off the coast. The New World Order today still goes to that site to pay homage. Just that they still go there today.
Now look at this. So we have here on the left, remember, we are searching for Osiris's penis and we're searching for Isis's yoni. Okay? Isis's yoni, Osiris's penis, Lingam Yoni conjoined. Why? Because it's a grid they're forming, a grid formation, right? We're probably going to have to do a part 2 to show you how they hijacked the Lingam Yoni and gave us the Lingam Rectum. So we'll do a part 2 for the Lingam Rectum. Okay? Now watch this.
Yeah.
So what we know today as Big Ben is at this point, right? Big Ben, which is here. Let's just do this. I'm going to do this a little bit differently here. Let's get more accurate. So from the red up here, and then we're going to go down here. And then we're going to push back up here, right? And then we get this triangle. And Connor's right, we get the sacred symbol of the triangle going down, which is the female, and then we can flip it to the triangle going up, which is the male. You see that? What is the symbol? What is the symbol of the sethites? The hexagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. The penis going down, the vagina going up. Are you guys seeing this? Now let me show you what's important here. Watch this. Now watch this. I went over it really quickly, but now it's time to decode it. Now let's go back to Big Bend. Big Bend is the yoni. The lingam is here, which is the Rio Grande. The Rio Grande forms the penis. It charges the lingam. It charges the yoni. The yoni opens up and pushes south. I'm holding it this way for a reason. When we push south, the energy from the Lingum Yoni pushing south, that's Osiris and Isis's energy. We're talking the ancient grid. We're going to decode what they did to that grid, right? And how they're ruling the planet today by hijacking that Lingam Yoni. Okay, we'll show you the actual ritual. Okay, so they're charging it heading south. Okay, that energy from Big Bend that causes Big Bend State Park. Yes, Andromedan. I agree with this. It charges, it pushes south and literally stops here. You can see with your own two eyes, look at this, that Big Bend and the Pyramid of the Sun is more or less on the same line. I'm trying not to do this thing because this thing is not letting me do it properly, okay? Let's put it here. There we go. Okay? It goes from Texas all the way down to Teotihuacan, Tenochtitlan. It wakes up the pyramid. Okay, the pyramid is all the way over here. Guys, just forget that. You know, I'm all over the place, okay? It wakes up the Pyramid of the Sun. The Pyramid of the Sun wakes up. When you follow the Pyramid of the Sun, guess what it wakes up? Guess who it wakes up off the coast? The Pyramid of the Sun now wakes up who?
The sun god?
Seth.
Oh, it means that. Okay.
Seth. What you think, my point to you is this. What you think is a crater or national park is actually an ancient reactor to wake the pyramids up in Mexico. And that pyramid wakes up and resurrects Seth. It is not a coincidence that his followers are on the West Coast. And can I tell you something funny? On the West Coast, are you ready for this? On the West Coast, much of this was done in what they call Presidio. Do you want to know the name of the town? In California, the Temple of Seth was done where they call Presidio. The name of the town, the last town to get you to Big Bend in Texas is called Presidio. Okay? Is it making sense yet?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do a part 2. We'll do a part 2 where we decode the Lingam Recturm ritual. Go for it, Connor.
Alrighty, so I want to go back to Teotihuacan for a second
Mm-hmm.
because I've been doing some very interesting decoding here.
Connor, you want to share? Do you want to share?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let me stop share. Yeah, you go ahead.
I'll
Go
share
for it.
my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what? Okay. It's coming up. Give it a second.
I got it.
Okay. All right. So we're right here in Teotihuacan. Looking at the pyramid at the sun, we already covered that this line right here points to the west coast.
Mm-hmm.
But look at this here. It's pointing. It's pointing somewhere north, up more. So let's zoom out a little bit. It's telling you how old it is. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this site right here is the 50,000-year-old North Pole. This is the pole that precedes the Hudson Bay Pole, which is right here. But it's also pointing to it too.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a number of structures that point to different north poles. So this is where it's pointing. So Teotihuacan is at least 50,000 years old. And if you look at the Great Pyramid, it's pointing to Hudson Bay. Now Baalbek from in Lebanon is pointing to this North Pole, the Bering Sea North Pole, and it was 150,000 years ago, or 100,000 years ago at least. They're telling you that these structures are far older than you previously thought. The fake news likes to call these sites are pointing to the normal North Pole. However, I disagree. Teotihuacan points directly to this North Pole here, the 50,000-year-old one. And if you look at right here, I have it right here. Angkor Wat. Hold on. So here are the structures pointing. So here are the specific North Poles. So here's the Bering Sea one. Here's the regular one, and here's the Hudson Bay North Pole. Let's visit the site here. Okay. Okay. Okay, so if you look at the Oracle of Apollo in Delphi points to the North Pole right here, the Hudson Bay. If you look at I'm going to highlight this. Do you see it? 20,000 to 60,000 years old. Oh, look at this. Chichen Itza is aligned to the Norwegian Sea North Pole. Now I'm going back to Google Maps. Going back to Google Maps. Right here, here's the Norwegian Sea. Up to 80,000 years old. Hey, I don't think this is a coincidence here. They're telling you when it's aligned. And the capital of New Mexico, it's one of the oldest. So If you look at Machu Picchu and Ollantaytambo, 130,000 years old, back to the Bering Sea, North Pole, right here. Do you think this is a coincidence, guys? I don't think so. Type 1 if you're following.
Definitely
But
not.
it's telling you the Acropolis in Athens and Tenochtitlan go back to the same period up to 60,000 or more years ago. They're also telling you that we know that the Earth's magnetic field switches every few thousand years, the North Pole as well. So then you look at the Oracle of Delphi and Lionsgate in Myus in Greece 20,000 years ago. Huh. Interesting. So these sites are far older than we've ever thought. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
That was really, really good, Connor. And it tells you that history is not 6,000 years. They've been lying to us. Okay. If they could lie to us about how old civilization is, do you really think that we are the correct height that we are?
And another thing is that Hawaii is at a geometric sign of 19.25 degrees, I think. I think that's what it is. But that's where all the stargates come into play. And so Hawaii has been experiencing different anomalies in the past. Easter Island is at 19.5 degrees. The Olympus Mons on Mars lies at 19.5 degrees. So if you take Earth as a diotetrahedron, so that's a sacred geometrical symbol, and then the point of that pyramid, the small little pyramid, points at 19.5 degrees. So that's where they come from. So the stargates point at different parts of the planet. And also, Teotihuacan points at 19.5 degrees. So you have Big Ben. They're creating a stargate here. They're creating a stargate. And
they created. Yeah.
Yeah, they created the stargate.
The ancient grid.
Yeah, I know part 2 will be talking about this, but they're portraying that the Sethites are after a particular bloodline. It's called the House of Kusambura. Kasambura. And if you look at this from a perspective here, all the royal houses of today descend from the House of Kasambura. So they're after a particular bloodline that the Sethites want to sacrifice members of the royal bloodline, princes, kings, that sort of thing, and offer it to Horus, because Horus wasn't able to produce any children. So if you look at the Maya, they used to capture and sacrifice princes.
Sorry, let's wrap it up because I think Rob is tired. Let's wrap it up.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's okay. But
Rob, we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap it up. Connor, go for it. Because it's kind of late and Rob does like 5 and 10 interviews a day. And I'm like, 5 and 10 interviews?
But anyways,
go for it.
The Mayans used to sacrifice members of their royal family and others. They used to take in royal captives. That's what the Temple of Set is doing today. That's the New World Order. They're after this particular royal bloodline, and that's it.
Who's the royal bloodline, though? Who?
I think they're after all of them. Like
they're after all. One. So all these royal bloodlines descend from the House of Kasambura. That's the bloodline of Horus, Isis, and Osiris. all the European royal bloodlines, the African,
All of it.
the Asian, the
All of it.
American royal bloodlines. They're all connected. They're all
Would this tie into the
all of
bloodline of Christ too, Connor? Because I know you
Yes.
study
All
that.
of yep.
Yes.
Yep. All of it.
Yes.
And it goes back to Nimrod.
Who is Nimrod? I mean, was he someone else too, or was he just
Okay,
Nimrod?
so Nimrod was responsible for building the Tower of Babel. He is the first world dictator. So
But he was the first to be given the royal scepter.
Yes,
Right.
yes, he was the first to be given it. But at that time, when he built the Tower of Babel, that's where everyone started speaking different languages, and that's where everyone started to say, "What the hell are you talking about?" So that's where all these languages started to spread. So if you look at it and say, hey, all these royal bloodlines descend from Horus, and then you go down here and it goes to Jesus Christ. He's descended of that bloodline through his mother. It goes down to the Merovingian kings, and it goes down to every European royal house, every Asian royal house, every American royal house, and every African royal house. They're all connected. They didn't just marry in one particular continent. They married everywhere. It's a global royal bloodline. And the Temple of Set is after this bloodline and trying to kill it off, extinguish it, like the Vatican is trying to kill off the bloodline of Christ. It is the exact same thing. So they're all after this. The Vatican worships Set. They all do. And if you look at the St. Peter's Basilica, it resembles a keyhole. And if you look at the Daisen Kofun in Japan, the tomb of Emperor Nitoku of Japan, it is in the shape of a keyhole. All the Kofuns in Japan belonging to royal tombs, emperors, kings, princes and princesses, and empresses, they all mirrored after a keyhole. It's saying to the gods, come here, unlock it. And because if you die in Shinto culture, they like to, you are transmitted on a boat to eternity. You're
just like the
transmitted on a boat.
Egyptians. Funny enough, because I have all the pictures ready to show you the obelisk today and how they're using the ancient grid today. I have all the pictures, but it's late. Let's do a part 2 because Rob, Rob, let's do a part 2. Yeah. So let's wrap it up. Connor, go for it. Me, Renetta, my link is there. You know where to find me. Yep, we're going to be setting up the excursion next year. We're only doing 4 at a time because we want it to be intimate. We want people to experience the mountain, see it with their own eyes, and really enjoy it. Yes, Connor is absolutely brilliant. This is why I love having him on with me. Connor, go for it.
All right, so you guys can find me at my email. I am actually starting a new YouTube channel. I'm calling it the History and the Royal Bloodlines podcast. I actually talked about the Illuminati and the 13 royal bloodlines that come into it. And then I'm actually going to throw out a new video later sometime this month. I'm going to talk about the royal bloodline of the House of Ethiopia. So I'm going to talk about that one next and see how that comes into play with the House of Kazambura. So that's where you can find me. You can email me at Connor, Allen5252 @gmail.com. And you can find me on my Facebook. I know Rob provided the link, but you can contact me anytime. Suggest me videos. If not, if you want me to stream a part 2, I can stream it through my YouTube channel, a part 2 on this. So if you're interested, hop on and enjoy the show. Thank you.
You're welcome. And also the part 2, we're going to go into how the grid got broken up and how they took the ancient grid after they destroyed the first grid, which was supposed to be male-female energy being pushed down into the earth to create fertility, to bring forth life, how they hijacked that, okay, and switched it. We're going to show all of that in part 2. But Rob,
Yeah.
I know it's late where you want. I just want to give you, you work so hard. You work so hard. So let me let you get some rest, okay?
This was amazing. Do you want to tell everybody, you want to say anything else, Renata, before we go?
Nah, they know where to find me. The link is right there. Love you
Yeah,
guys,
I'll go
okay?
into the description.
Yeah,
All right,
he's
thanks,
tired.
guys. Connor, do you have any final words?
Have a great time, guys. I'm glad to be next on part 2.
All right, thanks, guys.
ya.
All right. Have a good
Peace.
night, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you next time.